WTIM Pana Morning Show with Pana civic, business, and nonprofit leaders coming to you from our Taylorville studios. The WTIM Pana Morning Show, it's brought to you by our title sponsor and People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, along with your Pana Save-A-Lot, Pizza Man, Norton's Hardware, Bob Riding's Pana, the Nokomis Dairy Queen Pana Bowl, and the Oconee Chop Shop. I'm your host, Grayson Bauman, and our guest in this segment, we are joined by Grace Holthouse, intern principal of Sacred Heart School in Pana. Grace, good morning to you. How are you today?
Good morning. How are you?
Doing well on this end, and glad to have you here to talk a little bit not only about yourself, but your role with Sacred Heart Schools and just moving forward with what to expect from you. So if you would, let's get a basis for you. We'll start off with just a little bit about you, your journey in education, and what's kind of led you to your role today. What can you tell us on that end?
So I started my education work in the special education field at the K through 5th grade level, elementary. I did that for 9 years, worked with, students of all backgrounds, level of need. That was really great start for me, working with all those kiddos. I transitioned into a math intervention role at Pana's Washington Elementary School, and then the newest public school here last year with kindergarten, first and second graders. I did that for 5 years. And then now I am working alongside our current administrator, Ms. Duke, who we interviewed earlier this year. She is showing me the ropes, and I'm putting my own spin on things too at Sacred Heart. It's been a really great transition for me because it's given me a chance to kind of get to know what it means to work at Sacred Heart and be a part of that school family, and for us to learn from each other over the course of this next year. And the hope is that if they like me, I get to stay on full time for next year in the principal role.
Well, I think you'll have no problem with that last part there that you mentioned. But you tell us that 9 years in special education, then you moved to like a math intervention role, K1 through second grade in Pana as well. What can you tell me about those previous experiences in education that you think are helping you in terms of this newest role, this kind of waiting in the hallway, I guess, almost to take over this next role? How does that help you?
That's a good question. So in special ed and in intervention, I worked with many classroom teachers. And every classroom teacher does things a little bit differently. Your first grade teachers as a team, they might do things similarly, but they're all individuals. So it really taught me to work with different personalities, different teachers, work with schedules, work with different levels of need from students. So even though I wasn't in an administrative position there, I think it's given me a lot of skills that transferred really easily. In the special ed world and in the intervention world, you also have a lot of data tracking. You have a lot of meetings. You communicate with parents, other professionals, related services, things like that. And that also really parlayed into my current role. So I think that while I definitely have a lot to learn and I'm excited for all the new to come, a lot of that has really prepared me in my past. I've also worked with, several hundred students in those roles because I'd have a lot of kids that come and go in my classroom in those small groups. For example, last year I had 72 students, which is a lot in an elementary setting. Not all at the same time, obviously, but it helped me get to know lots of students, lots of families, things like that. So I think a lot of the skills really have transferred well for me.
I can only imagine, and when I think about it too, having an educator that kind of moves into the role of administration, then they have a better understanding of what they also liked from an administrator. Maybe somebody that wasn't overbearing or somebody that wasn't, kind of a micromanager or things like that. I'm not expecting that from you by any stretch of the imagination, but in terms of just an understanding of what it means to really be in the classroom and what it means to have support from those that are in administration, I think is just such a benefit for you. What about that core mission or the philosophy that you're kind of stepping into and now embracing? What can you tell me on that end?
Sure. So if you visit our school website, one of the first things you'll see is kind of a banner that says Learners Today, Leaders Tomorrow. We have had some billboards around town as well with that philosophy. And I think that really speaks to the heart of what we're doing every day. Yes, we're about our building learners and teaching our students, but we're also working towards their future. And we want our students to grow up and be leaders in our community, leaders in their business, leaders in their home. And so really having that long-term plan in mind, even when we have our preschoolers and our kindergartners in front of us, really speaks to the mission of the school and kind of that generational growth that we see. You know, my own children are fourth generation to attend the school, which I think is really amazing. And just kind of keeping that in the forefront of our minds when we plan what we're doing with our students.
Sure thing. Sure thing. So that's a look at the core mission, but how do we create an environment? How do we create a culture that kind of embodies the mission? What do you strive for in creating for your students moving forward?
So obviously, you know, there's things that all of our students do, but I also really try to recognize and build chances for our students to do things that are fun, hands-on, engaging, and collaborative. So I see a lot of group projects happening where, you know, kids are working on skills they're going to need for the rest of their lives. You know, who's the leader this time? Who's kind of doing some more of the behind the scenes things, working together. We also try to have opportunities for them to express their individuality. So for example, in sixth grade, they were recently working on a diorama project where they all kind of sketched their own ideas, chatted with each other, kind of helped each other make improvements, and then they each built their own. So even though we have a lot of projects that maybe the name of the project or the rubric looks the same, the outcome for the students really is their own work and their own ideas, which I think is really helpful for them both now and in the future.
Sure. So maybe implementing some more group projects, some more work between the students, and that's a way to kind of build that culture and that learning environment. So the other thing that comes with that is character development, though, and I think a lot of folks kind of just think academics, or what are you learning?
Sure.
But that's not all of it. What can you tell me about character development and how you maybe plan to help bolster that?
Yeah, so obviously we have rigorous academics. We have a higher grading scale than you traditionally see. Our expectations are at a higher level for those academic pieces that you kind of think of with a private school. But on top of that, you know, being a small school really gives us opportunities for things like peer tutoring. Our older students working alongside some of our younger students. For example, some of our third graders have been asked to help open things for our kindergartners, those tricky juice boxes and yogurt containers and things like that. So, you know, while it might be seen as a con that we have less staff, you know, we need some volunteer helpers, I see that as an opportunity to build capacity within our students. So, hey, you know, this student and this student, they're great helpers. They're an older brother, older sister. They already know how to do this. Let's let them have that opportunity. It doesn't always have to be the adult. So there's some of that character development there. Miss Zook also has on Wednesdays what she calls the Zook Zoodents. Teachers nominate someone from their classes that's just really having an awesome week, whether it be they're working extra hard, they've mastered a new skill, they didn't give up, they were a good friend. And so we honor those students. They come down, they take a photo, we call their name over the announcements, they get a little certificate for like a free pizza at Pizza Man, things like that. And we also monthly have our Christian Values Award. So all month long, students can be recognized by any staff member. Doesn't have to be one of your students. You see, oh, hey, I love how Robert went and helped pull that chair up for the person that fell down and asked if they were okay. And so Robert, his name goes into a drawing, and at the end of the month, we pick one of our younger and one of our older students from that box of nominations, and they also get honored and awarded. So lots of opportunities to catch kids doing what they're supposed to do and make sure we give them a shout out when it's deserved.
Well, and then the reward for it too, just kind of reinforces that behavior, I guess. And so then you just continue to build upon that. Obviously, you mentioned rigorous academics. You talked about a higher grading scale that comes along with it, but character development and just understanding how to work with each other, whether you're doing so as like an older brother, kind of older sister, or you're just accepting the help, obviously are two big things in themselves. Anything else you can tell us about how maybe academic excellence, character development, the core mission, philosophy, anything else that you can tell us before I ask about maybe some technology that's in the classrooms?
Yeah, sure. Like I mentioned, my own kids attend the school. So my daughter is in our 4-year pre-K program and my son is in our second grade program. They are both having really great years, which is really awesome for me to see, both as a parent, you know, a previous teacher in the classroom setting and now as an administrator. So I think that really speaks volumes when you have these families coming back year after year. You know, their parents are here, the kids are here, now the grandkids are here. So I think that really is something we kind of don't even notice anymore. Like, oh yeah, those kids have been coming here, their family has been coming in here. But that really, it's a choice. It's a choice to attend Sacred Heart School. And we do really appreciate those families that have come for generations, and that is part of their life. That is part of their faith. They're involved. And that is a really great thing to see.
And probably a great thing to be involved with. You mentioned earlier, did you say fourth generation your kids are now?
Yes. So my children's great grandmother on my husband's side attended the school, and then my husband's parents, my husband and his siblings, and now my own children.
So when you think about that too, 4 generations having made their way through the school, and now kind of as that intern principal, now getting to almost get back to it in a way more so than you already have, I guess, on top of that too. That's a big deal for you and an exciting deal as well. Well, joining us now, we'll take ourselves a quick 3-minute break. Grace Holthouse, and she is the intern principal for Sacred Heart School in Pana. We'll come back, talk a little bit more about, strong relationships between teachers, parents, and staff, positive behavior, and we already talked about how they promote it, but we'll double down on some of those things and more when we return with Grace Holthouse. You're listening to WTIM and your Pana Morning Show.
WTIM. Your information station, WTIM.
And we're back with the WTIM Pana Morning Show here on your information station, coming to you from our Taylorville studios with Pana civic, business, and nonprofit leaders. The WTIM Pana Morning Show, it's brought to you by our title sponsor, In People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and your Pana Save-A-Lot. Pizza Man, Noren's Hardware, Bob Riding's Pana, the Nokomis Dairy Queen Pana Bowl, and the Okanee Chop Shop. I'm your host, Grayson Bauman. Our guest in this segment, we have Grace Holthouse, who is the intern principal of Sacred Heart School in Pana. Grace and I have been talking quite a bit about just how we're going to support the culture that's already been built upon and more. But now we want to talk a little bit about technology in the classroom. You mentioned an interesting piece to me in between the break, and I'm happy to let you share it with our listeners. What about technology at Sacred Heart School?
Sure. So when people think of a smaller school, like a private school like ours, they may not think that we have some of that up-to-date technology, but we really do. Different grade levels obviously use tech at different levels, but we are what's called one-to-one, grades 1st through 8th grade, meaning every student has their own Chromebook, and teachers utilize smart boards. We have several new Promethean boards this year as well. Those are kind of interactive boards they use in class. Lots of web-based projects. I recently sat in with the 8th graders. They did a space mission project. That was really cool to see. And my own son is in 2nd grade, and he's a huge fan of his teacher's use of Dojo Island and Boom Cards, which are like tech-based interactive flashcards. So pretty traditional practice for someone that went to school a long time ago, but the kids are just really engaged because of that tech component. So we really do utilize a lot of technology, even though we are the smaller school setting where you may not think we would have something like that.
And for you to have one-to-one kind of access to the technology, obviously a big deal there as well. When it comes to some extracurricular activities, we've been talking a lot about in the classroom and things like that. What can you tell me about things maybe just outside of it, but are still attached with the school?
Sure. So we talked earlier about just kind of like that fully formed student on all ends, not just academic. So we do have students that participate in band. We have, all the sports that are offered for their age group, they're able to participate in. Sometimes we have parents that will help transport them over if they have practice at another location up the street at, the junior high for the public school, things like that. So we all kind of work together to make that happen for our students, which is really awesome to see. So really our students don't miss out on anything. They just have a lot of awesome extras that come with being a student at Sacred Heart School.
I was going to say, you can't talk about character development and a well-rounded student without maybe some of those things. So definitely wanted to touch on that. Enrichment programs is something that is listed to me. What about an enrichment program? What exactly is that?
Yeah, so we have students that have, extra needs. They may have some title reading and math support or even special ed support. So a lot of times with a private school, you may also think that's something we're lacking, but it's not. We do work alongside the providers from the public school, and we collaborate with them for services for our students. We have some students that maybe need a little help on learning how to be a good friend. And so they may come down to my office and do a group on that. We have some teachers that have some after school tutoring programs. Lots of opportunities for students to get extra support in any area that they need.
Okay. So whether it's extracurricular activities or enrichment programs, there's a lot inside and outside of the classroom. We've got just about, I'd say, a minute and a half to go here. And I want to make sure we have time for this question for you, Grace. What are some of the goals that you might have for Sacred Heart School over the next 5 years? Some of those things you've been thinking about.
Sure. So while we are a small school, we are always looking to grow our enrollment, up our involvement from our students and our families, getting them involved in our fundraising and things that are going along at school. We have a lot of involved parents, but I'd like to see more involvement with our parents, more opportunities to come into the school and support during the school day if that's something you have time for, or helping out with opportunities outside of the school. We have parents that coach. So I love that involvement and want to see that just keep to grow. And if anybody listening just happens to have a couple $1 million under their mattress, I would love to see us working toward building a gym for indoor recess, PE, sports practice, things like that. So if you happen to have a whole bunch of money laying around, you can give me a call. I'll be at school and I would be happy to help you funnel that into a gym.
Yeah, I can, hopefully somebody's got them, but unfortunately you don't have the right guy on the line. But Grace, thank you so much for your time here today and telling us all about Sacred Heart School.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. If anybody listening has a question, feel free to give us a call. We definitely be happy to answer those. We give tours of the school, things like that. So if you're interested in Sacred Heart School or something you heard kind of piqued your interest, we'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for your time here today. Grace Holthouse joining us on the WTIM Pana Morning Show, intern principal for Sacred Heart School in Pana, right here on WTIM, your information station.